Hey friends, I'm here with Jonah chapter 2, and well, in Jonah chapter 2, it's basically a prayer that he's doing from the belly of the fish. It says a fish. We know it to be a whale. I guess there's some, I just found out something earlier today. I was doing a little research on, I've heard some pastors say, look, it wasn't a whale, it says it was a fish. And I just always assumed that it was a whale and that there just wasn't a word for I don't know, I guess I just figured they just clumped it all in the same category, like aquatic animals. And we know the difference between a whale and a fish today. One's a mammal and one's not. One has fins that go up and down and the other has fins that go left and right. And there's just one breathes air. We know the difference, but we can't assume that these categories that we just made up are the same categories that they put. But I hear a lot of people say, yeah, there was a word that they had for a whale, so it was clearly just a big fish. But I was watching someone that did more an in-depth study on the subject, and it turns out that it doesn't use the word whale or the word fish in the original text. It's a word that essentially means it was like a monster, like a sea creature. And so, but the reason that we call it a whale today is because in the New Testament, Jesus talks about the book of Jonah, and he calls it a whale. So, I've never had a problem with saying that it's a whale, but it does say fish in most translations. However, Jonah is in the belly of the whale, and I guess he writes this poem. I am led to believe, I am a person who takes a very literal approach to the Bible in places that the Bible is meant to be literal. I don't allegorize. I don't try and find ways to say, oh, that's not what it's really saying. Usually I'll take the Bible at face value. But I think this is pretty clear that this is a poem that is a reflection on his time inside the whale. I don't think that these are exact words. I don't think he spoke anything at all when he was in a whale. I know I wouldn't. Anyways, it's a really cool poem where he's talking about how, God put him in the situation that he's in. He doesn't blame the sailors. God put him here, and he said, the billows, the seas, they crash over me, and then I go to the bottom. He says to the bottom of the mountain. I'm led to believe that he's talking about, the bottom of the undersea mountains. Like he's down at the bottom, and seaweed is wrapped around his head, and he probably just went way down there and was like, okay, I'm dead. The most interesting thing to me about this reflection from the belly of the whale is that there is no mention of the whale. He's talking about being drowned. I think if I was in a whale, my prayer would be about the whale. I think I would say something to the effect of, please don't let me die and be digested by a whale. Or something to that effect. That would be my concern. But this is not a reflection or a poem or a prayer asking God to do something. This is a poem / reflection / prayer about Jonah being saved by the whale because he was drowning. So kind of a new perspective. I had to read it a couple times before I came to that conclusion. Like, why isn't he talking about the whale? Like, where's the whale in this? But according to, you know, what I've found, and the ESV Study Bible says, and a couple of sermons that I watched, they all concluded the same thing, that he saw the whale as his salvation. Toward the end of the reflection, the prayer, he said, those who worship vain idols, I'm trying to remember the words, those who worship vain idols, I guess it says something like they forsake the steadfast love of God. And it's interesting to me, I guess I would say, remember this for the 2 days later, because I'll just say it, you know, Jonah is mad at God because of his steadfast love, and yet here he receives his salvation. It even says that. It says salvation belongs to the Lord. And so he is going to go to Nineveh. He makes his decision like, okay, God, you saved me. You know, you showed me how powerful you are. I'm gonna go because of your steadfast love. And so he loves his salvation, but does he love the salvation of the Ninevites? He loves receiving steadfast love, but he doesn't love it when God gives it to other people. So, very interesting chapter. All right, that's Jonah chapter 2.